We're going to jump into this portion of our reading today. So we are on Unit 3, the Human Body, Systems and Senses, Day 2. And today we are going to zoom in and focus in a little bit more on one of those systems. Sound good? Remember, yesterday was just that really quick overview. Ray, sit up. That really quick overview of all of the systems. We're not doing all of them. We don't have to know everything about them, but we do want to zoom in and start to learn some content about them, but also learn how to be really good readers through the process of decoding words and figuring out the new meaning of things. So that's going to be a big takeaway we want. Cooper, sit up. We will go ahead and we'll start with our vocabulary for today. Our first word that we're going to look at today is the word axle bones. Axle bones are bones that are located down the center or axis of a vertebrate's body. So we learned about vertebrates last time, right? Those axle bones are the ones that are going to go whoop, down the middle back there, right down the center in the back. Okay? The bones that are located down the center or the axis of the body. We're going to learn about, so what system do you think we're going to jump into today? Skeletal system. Our next up is cartilage. And I put that ear in there, and you'll see why in a second. But cartilage is strong, elastic tissue that can be found in places like the tip of your nose or the tops of your ears. So one of the things you'll notice is when we look at the skeletons don't have noses. Yeah. Because that's not bone, that's cartilage. Skeletons don't have ears because that's not bone, that's cartilage. Okay? So even though it feels hard, cartilage is often hard. Some of yours probably don't feel it. I have abnormally hard ears. That sounds weird, but I do. What? Yeah, my sister has elf ears too. But so that's what the cartilage is. So like I said, when we look at the skeleton, you're not going to see that piece then because it's not on there. Hey, hello, Aiden. This is just our second what we're looking at. Our next word, I apparently did not put a picture up for, and that's okay, is the spinal column. The spinal column is the backbone. It's the series of vertebrae that extend from the neck to the tailbone. You remember when we talked about that during our last unit? It's going from the neck or the top, and it's going down to our tailbone. So all the way down by our booty. That's going to be that spinal column. Aiden, get your stuff put away. And we learned about that when we were doing the animals, because we learned that's where the nervous system is running through. That's sending those signals out. So we will learn more about that in the nervous system as well. Our next word, oh, there's our picture. There you go. So you kind of see those bones. I didn't want to do the same picture over again, so I did a different form for it. Next up, we have the cranium. What's our word? Cranium. The cranium is the skull. Everybody tap your cranium. It's the skull. It's the hard bones that protect the brain and give your head its shape. Okay? So it's those hard bones. One of the things we're going to talk about today is you'll notice in there, you see how there's those lines there? Those are there because our skull is actually going to have those split pieces in there. So it's those bones coming together. Okay? And we'll learn more about that today as we read about the skull, or the cranium. The skull, the hard bones that protect our brain and give our heads shape. But we know what gives our bodies shape anyway. Bones. So it makes sense the cranium would do that. Next up, we have structure. This is going to be a form or a shape, something that is made up of a number of parts arranged together. So that's kind of why I put all of this in there, is for our picture, is it's all those things coming together to make that form of the body or the shape. Okay? And usually that'd be the bones, but this is just what we did for it. And we will get into those other words a little bit later. So those are going to be our vocabulary words for our read aloud today. Sound fabulous?
Yes.
Yes. Are you guys excited for today's read aloud?
Yes.
Okay. So we are going to do a few introduction questions. We're not going to jump into the reading right now, though. Our read aloud today is titled The Skeletal System, Axle Bones. So we know we're going to be reading about what?
Axle bones.
Axle bones, about the skeletal system. It's all going to go together in our reading today. We started filling out our KWL yesterday for the skeletal system, and we're going to go ahead and take a few minutes to fill that out before our reading today as well. But we want to be thinking about the skeletal system because that's when we're in. So anything else maybe you know now or you wonder about the skeletal system now that we've had a quick introduction to it. And by the end today, we want to be able to fill out some more pieces to that learned. What did we learn about the skeletal system? So what is the skeletal system made up of? Brock. Bones. The skeletal system is made up of our bones. Or what do we call it when we have all those bones together? What do you think? Yeah, that's exactly right. That's the skeleton. So those bones coming together, they make up the skeleton. The skeletal system is why is the skeletal system going to be so important to the human body? Turn and talk with your neighbor. Why do you think it's so important to the human body? 3, 2, 1. I absolutely love what I see as I look around because I've heard the skeletal system gives you your shape. I saw a lot of people doing the actions of if they didn't have a skeletal system, what would you look like?
A big blob.
Aiden was describing it. Aiden, what did you say you would look like if you didn't have bones?
A blob on the floor.
Right? So you would just be muscles and tissue and cartilage and organs stuck there. The bones are giving that body the shape. And so they're going to be super important to have. Exactly. That's the other piece. What else do they do, Haley?
So like our skull, it protects our brain. So like if we like fell on the floor because we're so wobbly, we would probably hurt ourselves really bad.
Yeah, exactly. The other thing those bones do, a lot of them are there for protection. She mentioned it, that cranium, that skull, right? What is it protecting? Everybody, yesterday we talked about it, your ribs, right? What are your ribs protecting? Right? What are your ribs protecting?
Your heart and your lungs, kind of.
Some of our main organs are packed right in here in our body. We've got our lungs, we have our hearts, we have our kidneys are in the back, but still protected by back ribs. All of those things are inside that rib cage. So they're helping protect our body as well. Super important. What are animals with backbones called?
Vertebrates.
So today, obviously, we're going to be thinking a little bit more about vertebrates. Animals without backbones are?
Invertebrates.
Perfect. If humans and other mammals are vertebrates, are humans and other mammals vertebrates or invertebrates? All mammals are?
Vertebrates.
Vertebrates, very good. What do we remember about exoskeletons? Charlie, what do you remember about exoskeletons?
Bugs have them and they're like on the outside instead of the inside.
That's awesome. So bugs, a lot of insects have exoskeletons. They're on the outside and the inside of the inside. We talked a little bit about it in our last unit. Can you imagine us as exoskeletons? So instead of having that vertebrae on the inside, we would just have like this big protective thing on the outside. Like and as big as we are, wouldn't that be weird?
Kind of like a turtle.
That is a good comparison. Wouldn't it kind of feel like we were turtles?
Yeah.
With this big old exoskeleton. Today we're going to be coming across the word axle again. A-X-I-A-L. Do you remember that in our slides?
No.
Our very first word we came across was axle bones. So we have axle in our slides. We're going to come across the word axle on a piece of paper. What word do you kind of see inside of axle? Yep. It's not fully there, but what do we kind of get from that? Axe, good. Right? I'm going to build on what she said, okay? So we've got axe in there. We also see that axis. Everybody make an X with your arms. When we looked at the earth, we looked at the earth axis as well. Our body is sitting on an axis. Show me this axis. Our body is sitting with that axis as well. Our spine, our spinal column, our vertebrae is our axis. It's helping see which way we're going to tilt and move. The Earth's axis is something we've learned about in other, or like kind of a little bit when we did our social studies unit. It's just an imaginary line that goes through the center of an object and it divides it into parts, right? Like the equator or the prime meridian. Those are going to be like those axis points. Ours is not imaginary. We do have an axis running down our body, and it is called our vertebrae, our spinal column, right? Today, we are going to be, the axle bones are located up and down the human body. Today, we are going to be working and learning more about those as well. Everybody feel your axis bones, and we're going to get ready to move on. Fabulous. Nice job. Third graders, we're going to get ready for our read aloud.